Hey everybody, so now that I've owned this Breville Oracle Jet for a little over a month, I'm going to go through 5 likes and dislikes that I have about this product. Some of these things you may have heard previously and some of them you may not have, and I have some opinions, I have some thoughts. So let's get started here. First of all, my likes. This thing 100% of the time produces great espresso. It really does. It's just delicious. It is consistent. It's easy to use. I really don't have a lot of complaints about that aspect of it. I mean, it does what it says it's going to do, and you every single time you wake up in the morning and you're tired and you go through the process, you can get a great drink out of this. And there are so many settings and so many options. And I'll come back to that in a second as well. But I just want to start off with the big giant pro, and that is that it really is one of the best machines out there for what it does. So that's the first thing. I want to get that out of the way first. The next thing is I do really appreciate the barista guidance that this thing provides. You can turn it on and off, so it's not intrusive, but it does a great job of suggesting grind sizes when you put beans in. If the grind size is not correct based on the time it took to brew the shot or the volume that came out, then it will actually give you a suggestion as to what grind size to adjust it to. And it doesn't just tell you, hey, why don't you turn your grind size up or down? It says, why don't you turn it up to like 31 or whatever, because it came out too slowly, for instance. So that's pretty cool. I really like that too, and it has really helped me dial this machine in a little bit quicker than I normally would have, because frankly I kind of suck at this stuff, I think. So I'm not the expert that I probably should be, considering how much I spend on this stuff. The next thing I want to talk about, it is a thoughtful design. I mean, I really appreciate the fact that you can fill the water from the top. I know that's not necessarily a new feature, so you can see the water level there. That's pretty cool. But also at the top here, that's where you fill it, and it's really easy. I mean, you just pour the thing in and you check out the water level. I personally use filtered water from my refrigerator because I'm a little bit crazy like that. I want to make sure this thing stays healthy and I don't have to worry about descaling it maybe quite as much. We do have hard water here in Louisville, so that's kind of a thing. And I don't want to have to mess around with more maintenance than I need to. So, but I really like that. I also really like this caster wheel design here, where you can move the thing around and it easily can be rolled around on the counter. Using this little lever here, and you can just reposition it, so it really doesn't require any effort at all. You do need a little more clearance coming from here. I mentioned this in my first video, but you'll see here that this actually kind of goes over to the side a little more than you might think. So the horizontal clearance on this thing is maybe a little bit bigger than it is originally quoted. But other than that, I mean, it really is a convenient and a very versatile design in that respect. Obviously, I also like the screen. It looks beautiful. It's a huge step up from the Barista Touch and the other models previously. Big difference there. I mean, it's very responsive. It's obviously a much faster processor. I think Breville quotes 4 times the speed, so that's a notable difference. Also, the lighting. I mean, obviously, the lighting is beautiful. I mean, look at that. It really looks great. It really looks great, even when the lights are off. And it does a great job of lighting the workspace. So when you're doing things, you can easily see your cups and what's going on down below it. And I really appreciate that sort of thing. The next thing is, it really is, apart from being just attractive, it's quiet. It's relatively quiet compared to the Barista Express. I mean, the Barista Express maybe it had some issues. It was like 7 or 8 years old. And it was previously a refurbished model. I mean, I got it from Breville refurbished officially. But it did a great job, but it was always rather loud, especially when it was brewing. I mean, so like the grinding was extremely loud. And the grinding on this is still pretty loud. It's not like quiet. I mean, if I make a drink right now, I'm going to go through and make an espresso here. So. It's not exactly quiet, but it's not really super loud either. Auto Tamp does a good job. I really do appreciate being able to just walk up to this thing and basically have it do all the work for me. I have this set, by the way, on shot size single plus. I've noticed that gives a pretty good amount of espresso for the grind. I think it works a little better than double does, and I get pretty much what I want anyway out of it, even with the double shot basket and all that stuff configured. And I'm going to come back to this volumetric versus time-based stuff in my next Pro, but let's see here. So there we go, 6 seconds, 7 seconds, and it starts to flow about 9. So it took a little bit, We'll see if I get any barista guidance out of this. These are new beans. "24 seconds. I mean, but can you say anything else about this shot other than it just looks gorgeous? I mean, it really does. And the crema, once the crema settles, I think it's going to be a really nice looking shot. Let's go ahead and talk about the 5th Pro, which is a big deal also. And that is that it's really versatile for all types of drinks. I mean, really, it's, you know, the auto milk system does a great job. I'm not a big latte guy, but my kids and my wife really enjoy hot chocolates, and this thing makes really wonderful hot chocolate. If you go into, again, it's pre-configured here, but it doesn't really do much except for kind of guide you through it. You've got your recipe. You can press that, and it shows you that. Put your chocolate powder in, froth the milk. So you stick the milk container under this, and you fill it up to the marker in the milk container, which you probably cannot see on the video. There you go. And it just does auto frothing, and it's a really good, it does a really good job. And then you top it with marshmallows. I put a little bit of water in there too. Actually, I started with the powder, and then I kind of create a slurry out of it with some water, just a little bit of water. And then I froth the milk and kind of pour it in over the slurry, and it works really well. And my kids love it. My wife loves it. Again, you'll notice how consistent the temperature purports to be. I mean, you can adjust all these things. Look at that, 1 degree at a time. Microfoam. I probably got that a little bit high. Probably should go down on this to maybe like 4. But you can adjust all these things, and then the type of milk. And you've probably seen all this in other videos, but that's really cool. I love the versatility of this thing. The other thing I think is really neat is that just right out of the box, you can go into brew control settings and adjust whether you want volume-based or time-based. And it's volume-based by default, so it will actually monitor the amount of espresso coming out. And if the volume is wrong or is not optimal, it will let you know. The barista guidance will come on and tell you, and I think that is really, really cool. So those are my 5 pros. By the way, look at that shot. I mean, I'm having trouble not drinking this right now, just so you know, but I'm already jittery enough. So let's get on to the cons. First of all, it does go through water extremely quickly. I mean, really, we're talking faster than I expected by probably 50%. Coming from the Barista Express, I fill this thing up a lot more frequently than I would expect it to. And it's not like it's a small water tank, if I'm not mistaken, and I could be misquoting this, so just double check me on it. But I think it's 77 milliliters of water tank capacity, which is pretty large. I mean, that's a lot of water, and yet it goes through it pretty quickly. So that's kind of strange. I think it's a hallmark of all the thermojet systems that Breville makes. I think they all kind of do that. They go through water a little bit more quickly than you'd expect, but it's so easy to fill it up. It's not a big deal. You just kind of keep an eye on your water level down there, and you just put in some water. I have a little plastic cup I use to do that, again, coming from the filter water of the refrigerator, and it's relatively easy to do. So the next thing is the grind dial adjustments intra setting are, look at this. Look how much you turn it. Between settings, there's so much granularity to it. It would be really quite nice if they would implement like decimals. There actually are lots of settings in between that are hidden and adjustment levels that you don't notice unless you've used the machine for a while. So you're definitely getting, an adjustment physically of the grinder, even though it's not being displayed on the screen. So you have to kind of play around with that and get used to it. So that's a small gripe, but it is something that you should take note of. The next thing is the water spout location and angle, and other people have mentioned this as well. If you put your mug here, for instance, which is a perfectly reasonable place to have it, I think, and then you try to dispense water, you'll notice that the water spout, being back where it is, will actually miss my mug. See that? It's not actually going in my mug. It's actually just spraying the side of it. So you really have to get used to placing it further back, which is not a big deal. I mean, you can place it almost all the way back, and it'll still be underneath the espresso spouts. But I like to have it just a little bit behind these drains at the bottom. See that? It's a pretty easy way to do it. I mean, you get used to this really like after the first day of owning this thing, but it is a negative. It's kind of weird that they don't have it here like they do in some of the other Oracle models. I think all the other Oracle models. It's weird that it's at like a 45-degree angle. It also tends to splash as a result of that. So I think that design is actually just inferior to the previous design. But so that's the next negative. The Knockbox 10, I want to talk about that next. This is what actually is packed in with the device. It's fine. It looks good. It definitely matches the styling of the device, but it also kind of sucks, honestly. I mean, you have to hit the portafilter on there. It's loud. It doesn't always work. If I try to hit it on there, I mean, it doesn't really come out very easily. I could have to hit this pretty hard. So if you haven't seen my other video about this puck sucker, it does the trick. It really sucks in a good way. So this sucks in a bad way, and this sucks in a good way. But that's the next negative. And then the last thing is there are some minor bugs and quirks that I'm actually a little surprised they haven't fixed yet. For starters, if you go to cold espresso and it tells you to do a finer grind size, and I believe if I go in here and I go back out, it won't do it. But let me just see. Yeah, it didn't do it. But like there are times where you can go in here, you can adjust this, or you can actually start grinding. I think it is what actually starts the process. And then once you're finished with that, even if you don't make cold espresso or adjust the grinder, you will get a note from the system that says that you adjusted it. Let's see if it does it here. I can't remember how you trigger it. So there we go. So I've ground some coffee there. Let's go back out. Okay, it didn't do it. Okay, well, I'm making a liar out of myself, but I swear it does it, and it's not fixed because it just did it to me the other day. There are situations where it will recommend that you adjust the grind size back if you go into one of these menu items that requires a grind size adjustment, but you actually never adjusted it to begin with. Just little quirks and bugs like that I think will get worked out because, again, this thing is firmware upgradable, which is really cool. And I've already gotten a couple software updates since I received the machine. And one of them added like drink options, I think it was. And the other one, I think it was like a day one update, but pretty cool. You know, again, you can add custom drinks and all that stuff. I think that's neat. Yeah, here's some of the stuff that it added, which I'm probably never going to use. Espresso martini, for instance. Pretty cool, though. I think it's neat that they're doing that kind of stuff, and hopefully they continue to refine the interface and improve some of the parameters with these updates, these software updates. You know, bravo to Breville. This thing is obviously, so far, I think, the perfect interstitial between like the previous Breville Oracle options and the Barista Touch Impress and those things. So if you want a little bit more manual control, but you also like the luxuries of having like the barista guidance and things like that, this is a really great machine. It looks phenomenal. It's quote unquote only $2,000. It definitely is smaller than the previous Oracles. It fits right in here perfectly. Don't have any issues with space, and you know, there's just not a lot of complaints that I have about this thing so far. It is a very well designed machine, and I cannot recommend it wholeheartedly enough. So if you enjoyed this video, please do like and subscribe. I just want to say thanks to everybody. I did just reach 1,000 subscribers, which is pretty wild because I don't care at all about this stuff, really. It's just a side project that I'm doing for fun. You know, I've got a real job, like I've mentioned before, as a tech consultant, self-employed. It's definitely my bread and butter, but this is something I enjoy. I've always really enjoyed product reviews. I've done it for a really long time. And if you enjoy my content, I'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe and stick with me and check out some of the other stuff. I'm going to be reviewing a lot of things I find interesting. That's my primary criteria. It's something that I just enjoy doing. So I really appreciate you guys watching. I just wanted to shout out to everybody and say thanks a lot for your support.